The smoking gun to 9/11 is as easy as obeying your first general order. A general order is a lawful order that everyone from commander-in-chief on down must obey. Let me say that again. A general order is a lawful order that everyone from commander-in-chief on down must obey. Everyone must obey. There is no leeway. There is no exception. It's not an idea. It's not a suggestion. No ifs, ands, or buts. You will obey, or you will be court-martialed for being derelict in duty under Article 92 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice for failure to obey a general order. So when your country comes under attack, it is the duty of the President as well as our military to preserve, protect, and defend life, liberty, and country. They do that by obeying their first general order. I will guard my post and everything within my post. 1. All military bases on full alert 24/7 until the war is over. 2. All military personnel locked and loaded, carrying on and off post 24/7 until the war is over. 3. You secure your perimeter. After you secure your perimeter, you preserve, protect, and defend it. And should you get enemies behind your line, you extract the enemy within. Just as a side note, terrorists operate behind enemy lines. Now there's one more thing we must do to be compliant with our first general order in a time of war on American shore. For there is something here in the United States that we must preserve, protect, and defend at all costs, no matter what. If we fail to meet this objective, it's over, it's done. We're either dead or we're somebody else's slave. And this slams the lid on the coffin as 9/11 being an inside job. 4. You reinforce your nation's capital because here's where your commander-in-chief sits, the President of the United States. This is your headquarters during a time of war. You want to keep him safe, don't you? Of course you do. And there you go. On 9/11, our Defense Department, the Pentagon, took a hit, and a plane that crashed in Shanksville, Pennsylvania was said to be headed for the White House. And how did they respond? Did they respond by obeying their first general order? Yes or no? Did they obey those steps? And the answer is no, they did not. If the people in Washington, D.C. feared for their life, which they should have after the events of 9/11, they would have obeyed their first general order, because two of the targets on 9/11 were our nation's capital. And how did they respond? They went back to business as usual, putting in pipelines across our country while fleecing us of $20 trillion while sending your kids off to die in the Middle East. And here at this point is usually where somebody will say, it's not that kind of war. Well, no matter what kind of war you think it is, there are two ways to fight a war. You are either on offense or you are on defense. When your country comes under attack, it's time to play defense. And you do that by obeying your first general order. No ifs, ands, or buts, you will obey or you will be court-martialed. And from 9/11 forward, neither the Bush administration or the Obama administration obeyed their first general order. There's your smoking gun.
About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who used to work for me. And one of the generals called me in. He said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They've just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs," meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran.